Fill in the blank. You're not getting any younger, so
Get yourself out there. Put yourself out there. Take photos of yourself the way you look now, because you might not love them in this moment, but 10 years when you look back, you're going to be like, oh my God, I wish I appreciated myself.
Hey you! Yes, you! Welcome to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast, a podcast for people who want to disrupt their lives for a good reason, to make it count. I'm your host, Jen Glantz, and every week I'll drop a new episode with stories from real people just like you, who woke up one morning and decided to make big changes, starting with small things. We'll cover topics like entrepreneurship, love, failure, and self-care. Hey, you're not getting any younger, so let's make this an adventure. Ready? Hey, any youngers, what is going on? We are back with another podcast episode. This week's topic is a topic that all of us, no matter what your relationship status is, you're always looking to know what the latest and greatest is when it comes to dating. But here's the thing. There are so many dating experts out there. I feel like I used to try to be one too. Back in the day when I was going on dates and I was writing my books about dating, I felt like my mistakes made me more of an expert in what not to do and what to help people realize you do not have to do when you go on a date, like be so awkward, especially when the check comes, or have to go out with somebody that you desperately despised the first time around. There's no guidebook for dating that you learn throughout your life. You simply pick up tips and tricks from people's stories or just from your own. But this week's guest is somebody really special. Lindsey Metselaar started the podcast We Met at Acme, which is all about millennial dating in New York City, though all of her tips translate for no matter where in the world you are. She says that we live in a generation of suppressing and not expressing. Her podcast touches on the topics that we don't want to talk about, but we all want to know about. Lindsey is a freaking badass woman, and I love her. She's seriously the kind of person when you walk into her apartment to record with her, you feel like you've instantly known her for so long. She's warm, she's engaging, she sits you on the couch, she gives you a hug, and also, she's really awesome. Lindsey's the CEO of Lindsey's Lunchbox. She's a food Instagram influencer with almost 80,000 following along. After her dating experiences, she felt it was so important to create a podcast and shed a light on this touchy but so important topic. I am so excited to have Lindsey on the show, and I hope that you enjoy this week's episode. As always, can I just say, I want to wrap my arms around you and give you the biggest hug. Thank you so much for listening to the show week after week after week. By the way, if you haven't done so yet, what are you waiting for? Come hang out with us in the secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group. There are so many awesome people on there, and we are waiting for you. Plus, if you have just 25 seconds, if you could drop us a review on iTunes, it would just mean so much to me. You have absolutely no idea, and it's perfectly free to do, so thank you in advance. Hope you enjoy this week's show. You were out at a bar or a party. Mm-hmm. How would you describe who you are and what you do?
Ooh, that's good. I would say I am a podcast host, and I also do social media, like social media management, and my podcast is all about dating, so I like to talk about it, and depends like what kind of party it was. I feel like a party in a bar could be different sometimes.
Totally.
But that would essentially be my pitch.
Do you ever lie to people because it's like semi-complicated to have to dive into it and just be like, I just do nothing?
Yeah. Well, I don't lie, but sometimes I'm just like, yeah, I'm in like media. I interview people,
yes.
Like it's just too much.
It is. And I feel like there's so many people who have interesting, weird side jobs that are like not typical jobs. And it's just so complicated to have to explain, especially if you don't want to talk to the person.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Your podcast is the go-to dating podcast for so many millennials. We met at Acme. Talk to us about why you started it. I feel like there's a lot of dating podcasts out there, but yours is so unique and different and powerful. So why did you start this podcast?
Thank you for asking. So it's so funny that you say that there's all these dating podcasts out there, because when I started mine, there were none.
It's crazy.
So that was one of the reasons I started it. I was like, I love podcasts. Like, I love Serial, and I love, these murder mysteries and like NPR, and I love, How I Built This. But I feel like podcasting is like kind of old and outdated. And I was like, I want a podcast that I would listen to about something that I'm interested in. And everyone is fascinated by people's interpersonal relationships. Like, it's just a fascination. Like, everyone stalks couples on Instagram, gets emotionally invested, is upset when they break up, needs to know why, needs to know how they met. And so I wanted to give a platform to dating within a platform that was kind of old, and make it more like millennial and relevant again. And I had my own dating experiences that I wanted to share, so I was like, this is perfect.
Did you find before you started the podcast that you were good at dating, or was dating also a mess for you and you wanted to start this as a way of also sort of learning how to date in New York City in your 20s?
I actually thought that I was good at dating, and I was the person in my group of friends that everyone would go to for advice and stuff like that. But then I was like blindsided by a breakup. Oh. And that's when I was like, maybe I'm not good at dating. Maybe there's still a lot to learn. And there was. And now I feel like I'm like much better at it than when I started.
What did you think made you so good at dating? Because I feel like if you ask me how are you at dating, I'd be like, I literally am like kindergarten level, like terrible. Like, I cannot get my act together. I'm so socially awkward.
But
all
you
these
have
things.
A great guy.
But it took me.
Yeah.
Okay, I went on millions of dates before I met him. So what did you think made you good at dating before?
I actually think that making so many mistakes made me good at dating, and literally just putting myself out there and going through all the crazy experiences, whether good or bad, made me good. Like, you can only be good if you do the bad thing a million times.
So true.
And that's why I want to be this like older sister figure to these men and women just graduating, because I'm like, wait, like, this is a life hack. You can skip through all the horrible shit I went through if you actually take my advice. Like, I'm telling you, I learned the hard way.
Okay, so I feel like dating mistakes is also something that people love hearing about, because we all make them. It's inevitable. What were some of the biggest mistakes that you were making when you were dating?
Oh my God, where do I start? I was very quick to travel with people that I dated. And I mean very quick. Like, second date, I went to Denver with someone.
What? How?
Mm-hmm. They invited me to see this concert at Red Rocks Amphitheater, which is like such a cool place. And so I was like, why not? They were like paying for it.
Were you scared at all because you didn't really know the person?
I was kind of scared. And like, I had met this person. I thought they were too good to be true to begin with. But I never did my investigation that much like I usually do. And I was too gullible. Like, I would believe people when they would be like, oh no, that's just my very close girlfriend, when it turned out to be their girlfriend.
Right.
Or, things like that. And so I went to a wedding with someone for a first date. I went to Denver with someone on a second date. I went to Florida with a guy's grandparents after a month of dating.
Oh, I was like, on the second date.
No, but that's still not okay.
God.
Yeah, and like, trust me, I'm all about traveling with someone, but more so when you're like, when you're something.
Yeah.
I traveled with another guy to LA on like the tail end of his work trip to meet him for the weekend. And we broke up after that also. So I think like I just did so much premature travel with these people. Like, I was doing the other right things, but traveling with them too early before establishing being official was just like, it was just not the best move looking back.
But, like, in the moment, did you even question it? Because I feel like while I'm sitting here, like, oh, my God, how did that happen? I'm also like, come on, Jen, you might have done the same exact thing. Like, what happens in the moment that you become so blind?
I think you just, like, really want to see the best in someone. And I feel like we're actually similar in that, like, we're optimistic.
Yeah.
And so I, like, it doesn't matter how much someone hurt me. Like, I would start anew with, like, a positive attitude. You know, like, I really tried not to bring that stuff into the next thing. And then it was, like, again, a shitty situation, you know? And maybe it's true. Like, maybe I overlooked a lot of things, like their past and, you know, things that people had told me because I just really liked that person and really believed in it when, you know, there were definitely red flags.
I feel like it's so common, though. Like, have you ever had a situation where everyone in your life is like, Lindsay, this person's not so good, and you're just like, I don't believe you, you know? Like, I feel like that happens. So do you think, like, going forward, and for people who are listening, would you say really investigate what's going on at the start or just ride it through? Like, do you regret any of these things that you did?
I don't regret it only because I now, like, have learned from it. But, I mean, if you can prevent it from happening, if you can listen to your friends and family, like, they know what's best for you. And if they say they don't like a guy, there's a reason for it that you can't see, or a girl. And, you know, like, there's probably something to it.
Do you think it's a female thing? Like, I'm wondering if females are just so excited by the possibility of finding that person that they sort of just rush fully in. Whereas, like, a lot of when I date guys, I mean, I only date guys, but all the guys I've dated, they're like, okay, we're going to go really slow, you know? So, like, is it more of a female thing?
I actually don't think it's a female thing.
Really?
I've had guys who tried to rush into things with me, or I know a guy who, he took me out on a date. I could just tell that there were marriage vibes, like, already on the first date. And it just, like, it freaked me out. I wasn't even, like, 20% about him.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? I think, you know, this isn't for me. And then the next girl that he went out with, who, like, was really into the marriage thing too, he just, like, literally proposed to her after, like, a few months of dating.
Oh my God.
So, like, everything I predicted came true. Totally. And I think, and, like, you know, that isn't to say that they're not a good match. Yeah. Like, maybe it's going to be great for them. But I just, like, am a little freaked out by that because I think it's, like, sometimes a guy and, you know, men and women just, like, want a relationship or want a marriage or, like, and don't think about the person. No. And then there's another guy I know who just, like, similarly really wanted a girlfriend. And so he made this girl his girlfriend. And she's, like, very much with him, like, for his money and, like, doesn't have the best intentions. And, like, he never, like, he's not aware of that because he just immediately made it official. Right. Yeah.
I feel like it's so interesting. I remember in my personal relationship with my boyfriend, I think, like, 4 weeks in, he's like, I love you. And I literally looked at him and was like, no, you don't. There's no way in this world you know who I am. And it was the first relationship where I wasn't jumping so fast. He was. And I had to be like, back up, you know? Yeah. And now we've been together for centuries, but it's like, I always bring that up to him. Like, you were so fast to rush into it, you know? And I think it's just, you know, I think we all have something, like an idea in our head of what we want, and sometimes we ignore the person we want it with, and that's not good.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say, and this is, like, controversial, and also...
Oh, I love it.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. We're in New York City. Every background noise is just going to be there.
Every time I think it's going to be a normal day, someone's drilling into my apartment.
Oh, you can't help it. Oh, yeah.
It's awful. I think that it's a better sign if the guy is is trying to, like, move faster and you're like, no, than if the woman is. And I only say that because, you know, men are so, like, wishy-washy and women are more, like, loyal and, you know.
I'll never forget, I heard a quote from Rihanna maybe 5 years ago that I'll never forget. And she was like, find someone who loves you a little bit more at first than you love them.
100%.
And that always stuck with me.
Always.
Because I used to be a chaser. Like, I would go for the guys that were like, I can't commit. And I'd be like, I would fight for them.
Yeah,
you know? And
totally.
there's such a huge shift when you meet somebody who definitely at first is more committed to you.
I wouldn't say even at first. I would say the whole way through.
Hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough, I think. I think that definitely, like, that balances and shifts a little bit.
Right.
Mistakes are great, but what are some of the things that you would recommend people do? I mean, I know a lot of people who are just so over dating. I feel like with every dating app that's constantly happening, constantly popping up, people are just getting more and more out of it. How would you advise somebody who's just like, I'm over this whole dating thing?
Yeah. I would say that, you know, focus on your passion, and it's okay to be over it temporarily, but don't like completely throw it away. Focus on your passion and like making yourself the best that you can be, because then you'll attract the best. And just like do things that make yourself happy and truly enjoy being single, and then you won't like really want to, like, you won't be as desperate or like need a partner as much, because you will have like love for yourself on your own first, and that's what's most important.
I feel like too, you know, you get to a certain age where you need to have that love for yourself, because you graduate college, you start your life, and then, you know, I'd say by like 27, 28, things get real. Some of your friends go off and get married and have kids, and then sometimes you're the only single one, and it feels super lonely. And I think having that love for yourself is something that really truly needs to come first before you find that partner. Like, I think about if I was dating the same person from age 19 till now, I've become 17 different people, and a lot of those people I didn't even love, you know?
100%.
Did you feel like that too?
Yes, I definitely did. I don't feel like I was able to really have love in my life until I like established who I was and had that love for myself. And obviously there's like, you know, first love. But I think anything in between first love and like establishing yourself, it counts, but it's very different. It's not tangible, real love.
Did you feel like you learned a lot about yourself from all of the people you've dated, let's say in your 20s, that maybe didn't work out? Like, did you feel like you learned a lot? What did you learn about yourself?
I learned that it's so when I was dating in my like early 20s, there was a point where I was still living at home. Like I also, you know, was afraid to like be that person who dated multiple people. Like I would just give myself completely to someone, almost to the point where I feel like looking back it was clingy and like not okay. And I look back and I think about the people that like broke up with me, and I'm like, I don't blame them. Like I would break up with someone who acted the way that Lindsey in her young 20s did as well. And I would just like be careless and make a lot of, you know, mistakes that I would tell someone to never make today. So I think I learned the most from those breakups, for sure.
And I think it's so important not to beat yourself up. Like, in the moment, you probably were like, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this ended. And then years later, you're like, thank God it ended, you know?
Exactly.
Like, I think too many people just beat themselves up when a relationship fails. But what do you think the best thing to do is when a relationship fails, whether it was you're doing or the other person's doing, to not only get over it, but sort of understand what you can take from it to become a better person?
For sure. I would definitely, like, try to heal and like let yourself be sad, let yourself, you know, cry and have those moments, and then like again focus on a passion, turn it into something, whether it's a podcast or, you know, write down your feelings and do something that's like cathartic to you. Maybe start seeing a therapist, do self-work, and be of service to other people, because it gets you out of your head. And, you know, eventually you're going to reflect on that relationship when enough time has passed, and you're going to see, okay, yeah, this wasn't working. This is why it didn't work, or this is why I needed to end it. And then just learn from that, because every relationship is a lesson.
I always used to think about what I would say to all of like the guys that broke my heart if I ran into them. And I think like, you know, the year after it happened, I had a whole monologue about like how I hated them and how it was so awful. But then I think like 4 or 5 years later, all I would look at them if I passed them on the street, I would say to them, thank you.
Right, exactly.
What do you think you would say to some of your exes that are from the past?
I mean, I think thank you is a great one. I think Ariana Grande coined that very well, and thank you next.
Hero.
I definitely agree with thank you, but I think there's, you know, everyone has an ex that you would still be like, and fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, thank you to you guys, and fuck you to that one guy. Or just like, not even fuck you, but more so like, I can't believe I even like let you in, you know?
I can't
like,
believe I wasted so much time.
Yeah,
with
everyone
you.
has one of those, and like, but we don't say that because like when they go low, we go high.
Amen to that. And I would only hope that I'd wear a t-shirt that said that when I saw them.
Oh my
God,
God, that would be epic.
It's all about how you look in that moment. Like I always think to myself, and this has totally happened to me, like I hope I don't run into that person when I just left the gym or I look terrible.
Always.
That actually happened to me. I ran into somebody when I was like looking so awful.
I'm sure that's impossible.
No,
When?
it was like, this was maybe like 3 years ago. I was on my way to a workout class. It must have been like Saturday at like 8 a.m. And I just looked like everything was bad. Plus I was bent over tying my shoe and I look up and we make eye contact. I'm like,
God.
oh my God, this. Plus there's like a million blocks in New York City. Like how did, you know, but
Right.
It happens, and it happens when you don't want it to.
Did you say hi?
I sort of just like, we both like locked eyes, and then he kept walking and I kept tying my shoe, and I was like, there's like a 10% chance he didn't recognize me because I looked so bad, but I think it was just like a mutual, let's just pretend we don't exist, which I feel like sort of just happens.
It definitely happens.
You know, like you look at that person that knew so much about you, and then you just walk right by them on the street, which is crazy.
It's nuts.
A question for you from somebody from the You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, Christine. She wants to know anything about dating apps. She's sick and tired of using them because she feels like either two things happen. One, she gets tons of messages, but they never translate into meeting in person. Or two, she wastes so much time just scrolling, but she doesn't find anyone that she's interested in meeting. And obviously that's a very common problem with dating apps. What advice do you have for people who are just figuring out that dating apps are more work than they're worth because they're not meeting anyone in real life?
I would say go for the people on dating apps that you don't like, that you would be scared to approach in real life. Like, go for the people that you think are out of your league.
Interesting.
Because it's a dating app. Like, what do you have to lose? And don't talk too much before meeting up. And if they're not saying, let's meet up, look at the facts. They already said they liked you on the app. So just ask them to meet up and get a drink, and do it in like a funny, not taking yourself too seriously way. And if they don't say yes, then move on. But don't harp on like that one person or conversation. Just keep it moving and like keep a light, positive, like not nonchalant attitude. Like, here I'm shooting my shot, like I'm taking my chance, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Do you feel like the key to dating apps is just a numbers game? Messaging a ton of people, meeting people in person?
I think the key is like not taking it seriously, not taking yourself or the dating app seriously, and like making fun of the whole process, you know? Because like, it's not like cool to be on a dating app. I mean, I met my boyfriend on a dating app.
Same.
And like, we never were like, oh my God, like, like, it's so cool that we're on Hinge. Like, we were just like, yeah, we're on Hinge. Like, it is what it is.
It's sort of just like we both don't really want to be on Hinge, but we have to. I met my boyfriend.
But here we
on
are.
Hinge.
Yeah.
Do you remember what your profile said?
I think I was like very like satirical. Like, I was like making fun of the whole thing. Like, I was like, worst fat. I participated in dating apps. I was like, I think I said something about Susan Sarandon because I love her.
Love this.
Just something like I want to meet her. And then, I don't know, like I forgot the other one, but it was probably something about not eating salads because I hate salads.
And you have your Instagram.
Exactly.
Do you remember what his said?
I do, actually. I remember it specifically was pretty boring. He was like, fun fact is that I'm French and British. He was like, something about like, if he could his last meal before death or whatever that is, like that last meal prompt, he was like peanut butter. It was like pretty boring. And I remember recently I asked him, like, why was your Hinge profile so boring? And he was like, because I was scared one of my boys would like find it and make fun of me.
Oh my God.
If like it wasn't. And I thought that was kind of cute. But I'm really glad that I took a chance on someone with such a boring profile.
Yes. Which I think is like, you can't judge these profiles too much because A, not everyone's a writer.
Exactly.
And B, it's like, it's such an awkward thing to put together.
It really is. Like, it really is. But I do dating app profile consultations.
Yes.
So if you need one, hit me up.
Okay, seriously, you need to hit up Lindsey because it's such an awkward thing to put together yourself. It's like, you know how writing a resume is terrible? Writing a dating profile is 1,000 times worse. So
it's like writing a recommendation for yourself.
Totally, of like how great you are without sounding conceited or selfish. So hit up Lindsey, make your dating profile great, especially if you have had the same one for so long. Like, I was on dating apps for 4 years, and it's embarrassing when you don't change your profile pics or your bio because you see the same people on there, you know?
Yeah, and especially on an app like Hinge, if you do change it, you get new people who like the new things that you're saying and the new pictures that you've put up. So there's a lot of benefit to that.
Totally contact Lindsey. We'll put her info in the show notes. I want to end with a quick lightning round. I'm going to ask you some questions.
Ooh, I
and
love
tell
a lightning
me
round.
what comes to mind. When you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Ooh, there was definitely a point where I wanted to be like an actress/singer.
Do you think you'd do that now?
No, I think I missed the boat on being an actress. And like,
know.
I don't know.
I know it's going to happen. I feel like I'm a little bit psychic, like 10%. I think your podcast is going to be made into a TV show and you're going to star in it.
Oh my God.
You heard it here
I just
first.
knocked on wood because you never know.
I think that's what's going to happen.
Oh my God, Jen.
Everything comes full circle.
I wish. I'm going to manifest that.
I'm going to just replay this over and over again and believe it. What is the best piece of dating advice you've ever received?
I always use this as like the prompt quote on my podcast. And by the way, if you haven't listened to my episode with Jen, you must right now because it is so good.
We had so much fun.
It's my favorite, one of my favorite episodes. When someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Ooh, I love
because it's just true, or tells you who they are, because a lot of the time they do and we overlook it.
Are you the kind of person who can meet someone and sort of know what they're about in the first couple minutes?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm the same way.
Definitely.
I feel like
It's
I'm
a blessing
never
and a
wrong.
curse.
Yeah. I feel like I'm almost never wrong about that, you know? Either like I get a good vibe from you or I'm like, oh my God, this is ugly.
Exactly.
Wonderful. What is one of the biggest moments of failures you've had and how did you get through it?
That's a great one. I had a party like early on, like for like a business thing. And I actually lost a lot of money throwing this party. And it was a success, but I think I let like this venue take advantage of me. And, you know, I learned that like you really need to be very discerning with where you put your money, especially if it's money you've saved up. You know, and there's so many ways to bootstrap and have a party without doing it at a venue. You can do it at a friend's place. You can do it at, you know, so many different places. So I would say just like be careful when you're on a budget and you want to do something business related. Just really make sure that you stick to that budget and you don't lose. Because that, I wouldn't say it was a failure, but it was definitely something I can't get back.
Yeah, totally. And it's such a big business mistake when you first start out, is just not knowing like how to deal with those kinds of things, you know? My final question for you, we end all of the shows this way. Fill in the blank. You're not getting any younger, so...
Get yourself out there. Put yourself out there. Take photos of yourself the way you look now, because you might not love them in this moment, but 10 years when you look back, you're going to be like, oh my God, I wish I appreciated myself when I was X age. I know my mom specifically always tells me, like, you're never going to look any better than you do in this very moment. And she always, you know, like she always is like, I wish I appreciated how great I looked at 40. So, you know, whether you're 20 or 30 or 40, appreciate it. These are the best years of our lives. And so are 50 and 60 and 70, but just appreciate it in the moment as much as you can, because you're going to look back and you're going to wish you did.
Totally, Lindsey. You are the best. Please tell our listeners where they can find out more about you and your podcast.
Thanks, Jen. You can find out more about me by following me on Instagram at LINDSMETS, or following the podcast at We Met at Acme. Give it a listen, especially Jen's episode, and check out our website, wemetatacme.com, and just follow along for more updates on upcoming events and all that good stuff.
Yay, and we'll link to all of this in the show notes. Thank you so much, Lindsey.
Thank you.
Are amazing.
This was great.
Thank you. Hey, you. Thank you for listening to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. There are hundreds of thousands of pods out there, so thank you for listening to this one. You can find the show notes for this week's episode up on our website, anyyounger.com. Subscribe, rate, and review the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast on iTunes so that other ears around the world can listen too. Oh, and join our secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, where over 1,000 people are talking about how to disrupt their lives, for a good reason, to make it count. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz.